Welcome to the Financial Integrity Hub's podcast. The Financial Integrity Hub pioneers research and explores how law and governance strategies can be designed, implemented and enforced to support anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Identity, a RegTech providing financial institutions assurance that they are meeting AUSTRAC reporting obligations. The platform allows regulated entities to gain visibility over transactions, improve auditability, automate manual processes, and reduce the risk of non-compliance. Your host is Isabel Nicholas. Isabel is a researcher at the Financial Integrity Hub. She teaches financial crime at Macquarie Law School and interviews global and domestic experts on trends and market insights for the podcast.
Welcome back to the Financial Integrity Hub's podcast, where we explore the world of money laundering and financial crime. In this special episode, we interviewed Nathan Lynch, a renowned expert and author of The Lucky Laundry, which delves deep inside this hidden world to explain how dark money has infected the lives of ordinary people and tainted Australian democracy. He highlights the impact of money laundering on the real estate sector and shares some truly concerning statistics. We consider the enactment of Tranche 2, which has become a red-hot topic in recent times. Earlier this year, the Attorney-General released a public consultation paper on reforms to the AML-CTF Act, which seek to regulate gatekeeper professionals. The Financial Integrity Hub responded to this. In this episode, we'll explore the potential impact of these reforms and what it means for the financial integrity of our country. With an upcoming FATF mutual evaluation, the pressure is on for Australia to demonstrate significant progress over the years to come. We also discuss the case for cashless gaming cards to prevent successful money laundering and the potential for machine learning to assist in effective transaction monitoring. Thanks again to our listeners for tuning in. You can find this and our previous episodes by searching the Financial Integrity Hub at Macquarie Law School on LinkedIn or on Macquarie University's website. Today we are joined by Nathan Lynch. Nathan Lynch specialises in the fields of financial crime intelligence, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing and regulatory risk. He's the author of The Lucky Laundry, published by HarperCollins in June 2022. He manages Thomson Reuters' award-winning regulatory intelligence team across the Asia-Pacific region, tracking developments in financial services law, AML, CTF and risk management. Nathan speaks regularly at industry events and in the media on a range of topics including financial crime, AML CTF, risk management, sanctions and technology. Nathan is a program expert with the US-based Financial Services Volunteer Corps, which offers support to developing countries to help them combat terrorism financing, money laundering and other serious financial crimes. He also provides training to Asia-Pacific law enforcement bodies on the role of financial intelligence and technology in tackling serious and organised crime threats. Nathan was the Financial Integrity Hub's Financial Crime Fighter 2022 award recipient, and it is so good to be catching up with you, Nathan. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Isabel, and thank you especially for the privilege of being your very surprised award winner last year. I was so humbled and, as I said on the day, it really is an award that reflects what was in the book, which was our community, our industry, and the many people who are the true heroes, the subjects of that book. So thank you.
It's so well deserved, Nathan. To begin, can you tell us a little bit more about your book, The Lucky Laundry, and why you think Australia is the home of the world's filthiest money?
Yeah, it's probably not the filthiest money, but it's certainly up there. And I think it's really challenging because we have this perception of being we pride ourselves on being a clean, low corruption, rule of law country that really values integrity in all areas: sport, money, finance, politics. And so the real conundrum that we face is that there is this disconnect that's growing between how we perceive ourselves as a country and the reality of that. And you said in the intro about the international work that I do, a lot of capacity building overseas, and I have to assure you it is noticed in other countries. So we have this position in Australia where we're very fortunate in that we can sort of go and support other countries to improve their financial crime standards. But we also have to be coming from a position where we kind of, before we point out the speck in their eye, we look at the log in our own, to use a metaphor. So I think that's where Australia's challenge is right now. And that was why I wanted to write the book, to highlight firstly, the work of the amazing people in our industry, but also to communicate that to a general audience because we have so much to protect here. And I do believe that Australians really care about it.
For sure. Can you tell us a little bit more about money laundering through real estate and how common this might be in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that when criminals are looking to launder money, they're looking for, they're looking for a methodology that's going to be low risk, fast, smaller odds of detection, and giving them access to gatekeepers who are fundamental. They're integral to the modern money laundering world. You can't be a backyard money launderer anymore, really, and be very successful. The irony is that the success of the AML-CTF regime has led to the creation of the professional money laundering class, and it's sadly very lucrative work. So when someone's looking at a country like Australia, it's a great, attractive destination because as you've layered through the system and you get into Australia, the next hop of funds coming out of Australia is going to be less concerned about the provenance of that money because it's come through a clean jurisdiction. So therefore, if you can find a vulnerability in Australia and exploit it, to a money launderer, that's gold, literally. So what we sort of have in Australia is property where when the AFP does proceeds of crime seizures on these major syndicates, between 50 and 60% of what they seize is in property, real estate. It'll be across all asset classes. There'll be jewellery, wines, high-value goods, cars, but 50 to 60%, I think it's around 57% of that money that's laundered will eventually find a home in property, real estate. So we've really dropped the ball there. We can see it in the data. We only, of course, see the stuff that we detect and seize, but the AFP has now seized in the last couple of years, well over $500,000 in criminal assets. And that's what the data tells us when you break it down. So there's no doubt that property is a massive vulnerability.
Wow, yeah, they're crazy statistics. And as we know in Australia, real estate agents aren't regulated by our AML-CTF framework. I mean, we've been waiting for Tranche 2 for many years now to regulate these professions, including lawyers and accountants, in line with, of course, the FATF's recommendations. There have been some rumours that Tranche 2 is closer than we think. Do you have suspicions that we'll be celebrating the enactment of Tranche 2 anytime soon? Do you think we can be optimistic?
I think we can be optimistic now, and I think there's a couple of drivers for that. One is that there's a change of government, and so when you get a change of government, it's a good opportunity to drive ahead with, what are potentially, in some quarters, going to be unpopular policy reforms, but you do that early while you're still in the honeymoon period. We're seeing it now with reforms to superannuation, for instance, and politically they want to get that through the system early on in the electoral cycle and take advantage of the honeymoon period. So we have an amazing Attorney General in Mark Dreyfus. He's well across these issues, and from the people I speak to, he's a strong supporter of extending Tranche 2 as a matter of priority in this term of government. We've got incredible people like Deb O'Neill, really amazing senators who are just passionate about this area. They're so across the issues. So there's all of that happening. And then in the background, of course, there's the fifth round mutual evaluations. So Australia in 24-25 is going to be one of the first cabs off the rank in the round of fifth round mutual evaluations from the Financial Action Task Force. And it's going to be the first country to come up that hasn't moved on DNFBPs. So, we are literally sleepwalking into a bit of a catastrophe. And I can frankly say that, look, if it was a country that isn't a FATF member, I believe Australia would have already been grey-listed for this recalcitrance over 16 years. And I don't think once we get to the fifth round mutual evaluation, the FATF can't give us a bit of a free pass anymore and retain its credibility. So what's the FATF going to do? Lose its credibility to protect Australia or offer countermeasures? So we have to get it through, or at least have begun to move and be able to demonstrate progress before 24-25. It's a top level political priority. And people in Canberra are well aware of this. You can see the tone changing. AUSTRAC normally at Senate estimates is very coy, whereas now it's being more willing to come out and speak. So that reflects the fact that it's politically palatable.
Certainly, and we can hope for the best there. In New South Wales, there's been talk about cashless pokey reforms. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really interesting issue. There's a bunch of factors at play there, and I think tax evasion is the biggest one. Really, when it comes to government interest in AML, tax receipts is always going to be a big priority, right? It's a big driver. So the pokies are being used for large-scale tax evasion. We know that, people can walk in with $10,000, pop it in the machine, and it spits out, in 20 minutes, a nice bank check or an EFT transaction of clean funds with no tax payable. And what the states are getting on that is minuscule in relation to the federal tax receipts that are lost. So I think cashless gaming cards are a big part of cleaning that issue up, correcting this state-federal impasse that we've had for far too long, where the states and the feds are misaligned on this issue. And the states are getting microcents in the dollar in returning for facilitating federal tax evasion at 30, 45, 47 and a half cents. So rectifying that is a great development. But there's also, of course, other issues that are at play there, the social issues, the problem gambling, addressing all of those. And I think the Perrottet government is really across these issues and genuinely concerned about them. And we're seeing lobbying power of Clubs New South Wales on the decline as well. I mean, there was that extraordinary event recently where the head of Clubs New South Wales personally insulted Perrottet for his Catholic beliefs, extraordinary. So there was a big community kickback against that, and we're now seeing one of them still has their job. So, I think the time for that has come, and hopefully it has a whole bunch of broader social benefits in addition to the money laundering issue.
How do you think that technology or even AI might be able to assist us to detect and to disrupt serious and organised crime threats?
It's pretty profound, the impact that AI is having. So behind the scenes, there's been a lot of talk about it for a long time, but, the larger institutions are pretty reluctant to bring that technology in because from their perspective, if the regulators aren't insisting on, active machine learning-based transaction monitoring, why would an organisation do it? If you can use old school transaction monitoring based around rules that works, it's only a risk moving up to something more effective. So there's this sort of nudge that needs to happen from regulators to encourage organisations to kind of stay at the cutting edge. And the other side of it, of course, is that criminals are using AI. We're seeing scams that are running off chatbots, very convincing chatbots and things like that. So the other side are embracing this technology. So it's incumbent upon, the financial intelligence community to do the same thing. So I think there's a period of time where we're seeing it become more accessible. So companies like Napier, for instance, are putting out, some machine learning. I don't use the term AI because it's not really AI yet, but, machine learning-based, robotics-based transaction monitoring that's profoundly better than the old system. And so it will be a gradual process of organisations jumping on board with that, and hopefully regulators can encourage that journey along, because we do know, right, that big risk-averse organisations aren't going to take that punt if they then miss something and run the risk of a regulatory sanction for being kind of ambitious and cutting edge. So there's a little bit of an issue there that needs to be addressed on the enforcement side.
Some really interesting insights, Nathan. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's been a delight chatting with you as always.
Always a delight, Isabel. Thanks so much, and all the best with the hub. It's doing fantastic work, particularly around highlighting the importance of Tranche 2. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
The Financial Integrity Hub's research equips Australia and the international community with the knowledge, tools and insights to understand, identify and disrupt illicit finance threats. If you're interested in seeing more from the Financial Integrity Hub, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn to see our posts and events. We post a few times each week on breaking news and the latest research. We would like to thank Dr. Doran Goldbarsht for his academic advice and Isabel Nicholas for hosting.